Hello folks and welcome to Soncodex. In today's video I want to talk to you about sequences and rhythms in Bespoke Synth. So without further ado, let's play the intro. The most simple and common way to make rhythms is to use a step sequencer, and here is called drum sequencer. So to demonstrate how it works, I'm going to use a drum player. It plays sample drum samples. You can enter the edit mode so you can visualize its layout. We'll link the drum sequencer to the drum player and the audio output to the gain stage. Now, what is cool about the drum sequencer is that it's more complex and richer than what it seems. So here we have an 8-track sequencer. Let me tidy it up, everything okay. We can toggle each step to write a sequence, like in this one, in the bottom one, which is at channel 0. Well, it's not channel 0, it's MIDI 0, which is received here by random 0, where we have a kick sound. If you change this value, you're going to change the destination. So 1, it's the snare, so we're going to switch from kick to snare, and so on. If you want to change the overall sequence length, you can use this measure slider, which multiplies its length by 2, 3, and 4. So you can create pretty long sequences. Each step has a duration of a quaver. You can see here, and here you can change the step duration, the step length. So here we have 4 quaver plus 4 quavers, 4 quavers, and so on. So an entire 4/4 bar length. You can set the velocity of each step, which is pretty cool. So let's say that I want every step to be 0.6. And now you see that each step is colored with a light gray. And it turns out that each of these steps it is lighter, and you can change its velocity by pressing Shift and tweaking the parameter. Now let's say that you made your own sequence and it's pretty messy, you don't like it. If you want to recall the default, you simply move on top here, you open the drop-down menu and select Clear, and it will bring you to a blank layout. Now you can randomize each parameter by pressing the randomize, and by default the randomization is set to a density of 0.25 and a random amount of 1, which is the maximum. If you tweak these parameters, you're going to make minimum variations. But if you increase these values, the randomize will create very consistent randomizations. A really cool feature is that you can lock a specific row by pressing the correspective toggle. So here I want to lock the kick layer, the kick row. So each time I press randomize, it will randomize every other row except from the one I selected. And I can do so with all 8 rows. A super cool feature is the offset. So if you toggle it, a side window appears with lots of sliders, and they are all centered to their 0 position. And they produce micro time variations, and you can see that the row affected, it's moving back and forth. So this is pretty cool to make those drunk effects, those drunk rhythms. Now that you know all features about the drum sequence, we can move on. The next one, which is the circle sequencer. Now, I would like to point out something, which is I've heard few people saying that when you work with Euclidean or circular sequencers, you make polymeters, which is not correct. When we work with these type of sequencers, we produce polyrhythms. The difference is that a polymeter has a fixed beat duration. So the beat, it still remains the same, while what changes is the overall measure length. Here in Bespoke, the circles are smaller and smaller, but it is just a graphical thing. It's a walk around used to better visualize each rhythm. Their duration is the same. So the measure length is fixed, while what changes it's the beat. So here we can have 4 beats in a measure. Here we can have 3 beats in a measure. What changes, it's not the measure length, but the beat duration. And you can see it graphically. Here we have the first beat at 3 o'clock, while here in the yellow circle is set to about 4 o'clock. Now, to set the time subdivision of each circle, you simply need to open this drop-down menu and you can set the number of subdivision you want. And as we've seen for the drum sequencer, you can set a MIDI note to make this sequencer communicate with a drum player, for example. So let's give it a try. The last setting you can tweak using the circle sequencer is the offset. And as we have seen for the drum sequencer, it's a time shift that you can apply. And this is pretty cool. You can visualize the ring rotating, which is pretty fun to see. And with just 4 rings, you can make very complex polyrhythms. So it's a very fun to use module. Talking about polyrhythms, we can use another module, which is Polyrhythms. This module produces the same outcome, the same rhythms than we've seen with the circle sequencer, but it uses a different graphical interface. It's structured with rows, and we can select the number of subdivisions. So here we can set 4, here 5, 6, and so on. And you simply need to turn on and off each step. The last module I want to show you, it's an unusual module to use with rhythms, but I think that in some situations could be useful. And it is the slider sequencer. Now, you can set the number of subdivisions here, so it will divide the beat in by 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we can set it to play a simple pattern for the kick drum. This is with division 1. So as you can see, the green marker, it's moving along with the transport marker. If we set its division to 2, it will move twice faster, and so on. You can set a velocity for the note out, and the MIDI value for that value. Instead of using an offset slider, it has a time delay. So the time to trigger the element can be affected by a delay from 0 to 1. I decided to show you this slider sequencer because it can be very handy to create micro rhythms, which are those rhythms that are affected by very short and very tiny delay shifting between each pulses or each bit. Here we can have a listen, so 0. Now I'm going to make something pretty random, 4, 5. That was all for today's tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if so, I invite you to leave a like and subscribe to support my channel. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.